Hi everyone, Kim here at Olive City Homestead, and it's time for a garden tour. No wait, it's not. Today's video is going to be all about onions because I have a job to do. I cannot finish planting my beds until I get last year's onions out. I really did want to do a garden tour today, but I just am not quite ready for it. Things are in disarray like crazy. You might think, well, show us the disarray. We want to see that. Well, I'm not sure you really do. I've been taking out collard greens everywhere, and I still have a lot more to take out. Why am I taking them out, you say? Oh, that's a whole long story, but we'll get to that. Right, ducks? We'll get to that. They don't mind that I'm taking out the collard greens because I've thrown them to them, and they love them. Don't you guys? I mean, girls and Batman. Yeah, I've got 4 girls, all superheroes, and Batman. I bet you can guess who he is. Yeah. Anyway, I will be doing a tour in just the next few days. And we'll talk about how well my rhubarb is doing. I have it planted in several places, and I learned the secret is morning sun, afternoon shade. That is what it likes. However, I also learned something else that I never knew, because I never had mature rhubarb plants before. But now that my rhubarb is 2.5, 3 years old, I discovered it flowers. So I had to research that, and it means I need to basically cut the stalk off. Apparently it does not affect the flavor of the rhubarb stems down there. So I can still harvest those and enjoy them for what they are, which I love rhubarb pie. Can't wait to use it. Before they unfurled, these flowers were a gorgeous pink. Now they're white and not nearly as pretty as they were when they were a big ball of curled up glory. But now I know I can just cut them off. Swiss chard's looking good. So are the girls out there. More rhubarb looking great. And more rhubarb looking great with more flowers. I need to cut that off. I will. Tomorrow. Right, girls? New fig trees are bursting into leaf. Yellow roses are blooming. And here in the middle of my pathway, random volunteer ruby lettuce. But I'm certainly not complaining. Looks delicious to me. Volunteer alyssum, too, in the middle of my woodchip pathway. Little white ones, too. Now, I used to say I had no weeds. I don't have any weeds in my garden, but in my pathways and along the edges of the garden, yes. This is one of the cutest little weeds. So pretty, but full of stickers. And let me tell you a secret. I thought I was pulling out a lot of these weeds. They're easy to pull out. And in fact, I was pulling out another volunteer herb that looks very similar when it's young, but as it grows bigger, it looks quite a bit different. Let me show you. Recognize this? Yes, chamomile. I have chamomile sprouting up everywhere in my pathways, alongside my storage shed. Now, when it's little, you can tell by the ferny looking leaves that it might be similar in appearance to that little weed I showed you. Fortunately, it grows tall fast and starts blooming, and so I actually figured out, oh wait, this is chamomile that has spread itself all over the place. Right, BB? So yes, next to the pipe I'm still working on and those weeds there, I have more chamomile. Chamomile everywhere, huh, BB? Chamomile everywhere. Makes such a wonderful tea. Well, as I said, no garden tour at the moment, but I will do one in a couple of days. Still, I thought I'd give you a little sneak peek. This is some of my volunteer borage. Borage is an amazing herb. As you can see, it attracts a lot of bees. The flowers are absolutely stunning. Usually they're that bluish violet you see there, but look at those, kind of a pinkish purple. I have a video about borage that I'll link to that describes the many health benefits of it, and it's actually edible too. But I have so much of it, guys, which you'll see on my tour in a day or two, that I'm going to be transplanting a lot of it, or trying to anyway, down into my fruit tree orchard as part of the guilds I'm putting in there, because it's a great nitrogen fixer, so it will hugely enrich the soil there and again attract the bees. And it makes a great mulch too. I say try to transplant it because, as the video I'm linking shows, borage has a super deep taproot, and it's hard to dig it up without chopping it off. I have so much of this everywhere. I'm going to try to get some of it up and get it down into the fruit orchard where it can spread like crazy down there. That would be nice. Meanwhile, back to the subject at hand, which, as I promised, is my very unusual onions, and harvesting the rest of them so I can free up my beds. So come take a look with me and tell me, have you ever seen onions like this before? So here in this small bed I have a beautiful osteospermum. Quite an interesting shade of pink or mauve, lavender, something like that. Meanwhile, I also have some really big onions. I have taken most of the onions out of this bed. There's only 6, 7, something like that still in here. And you know what? These are some of the smaller ones I've got because I have another bed with a lot more. Now, why are these onions like this? I'll tell you why. Because they didn't bulb up. That's right. Some of them bulbed, I'd say about 50%, but about 50% of them did not bulb, so I left them in the ground. So look at how huge some of them are now. So I planted these early last spring, and it's a whole year later. They're supposed to grow in one season. I should have been harvesting them in the fall, but only, as I said, about half had bulbed up. So I left them over the winter, thinking maybe they'll bulb up over the winter. Well, I'd say another 10% did do that. But the rest of them just got super big. Now, some of these are a manageable size, while others are gargantuan and seem to have grown together. I planted 3 different kinds of onions last spring: yellow onions, red onions, and Walla Walla sweet onions. And I don't think any of them did particularly well. They did all right, but I need to up my onion game for sure. Still, I did enjoy the ones we harvested in the fall. About 50% of them bulbed up nicely. Now, over the last several weeks, I have been harvesting the smaller ones, and we have been using them, and they've been absolutely delicious. And the fact that they're not bulbs hasn't mattered at all. So what do they look like? Well, let me show you. Here are some of the smaller ones. These are the ones that I have been harvesting over the last month when I want some for dinner. So this is a red onion, obviously, and it's about 2 inches in diameter. And from the roots to where the green stalk starts is about 4 or 5 inches of onion. Now, I've been using a lot of the greens too, and they are fantastic in stir fry. And I used some the other day in a stew. I actually used 3 of these, about this size, and just put them right in the stew with roasted carrots and potatoes, some shredded zucchini, 3 or 4 cups worth, a bunch of black beans, some garlic. Oh, it was so good. But let's tackle those big onions and see what they look like. I think I'll just give it a go. Got the camera propped up, so now I can use 2 hands, and that's doable. And these are going to vary widely, obviously, in size. Anyway, the thing is that it doesn't really matter whether they bulb up. They taste the same. Take it from me. I've now had them both ways, I've had them as big bulbs. I've had them as small cylinder-like onions. And they're not as big, obviously. You don't get as much, but the flavor is the same. And so that's all that matters to me. Well, maybe not all. I do intend to figure out the secret to growing the best onions. And there's a whole big deal about whether you're doing long day, short day, or intermediate, meaning you can do either or. And that is my dilemma. I'm in the middle. I can do either or. But I feel like if you're in one or the other extreme, short day or long day, as far as latitude goes, that you maybe do better. That's just my theory. But I'm going to figure out which onions bulb up the best. But meanwhile, I'm going to make use of all the onions. So let me harvest the rest of them and I will show you the end result. So the end result is I have 7 that are little tiny to small. And I have 8 that are a nice medium size, ranging from about 1.5 inches to 3 inches in diameter. With lots of greens too. And then I have the red ones. There are 6 of those. And those are a good 2.5 to 4 inches in diameter at the base. And then I have the huge ones. I mean, huge as far as they didn't bulb. Well, 2 or 3 look like they kind of tried to bulb. But I have, 7 of these also. They kind of look like pineapples on top, don't they? But let me just say again, the flavor is delicious. You can use them in stir fries. You can use them in stews. You can use them however you use onions because that's what they are. So if your onions don't bulb, don't give up on them. Use them. You can do like I did and leave the ones that don't bulb in the ground all year. Some people say that when they go to flower, as these are about to do and produce seed, that it changes the flavor. But I've had friends that have eaten them with the flowers. Well, I mean, they don't eat the flowers, but they eat the onions after the flowers have appeared. And they said it didn't change the flavor in their opinion. So I guess that's something that you'd have to judge for yourself. But I caught these just before the flowers did open up. I thought, okay, enough time has gone by, enough is enough. And anyway, I need to use this bed for something else. So I need to get some compost in here and bring the soil level up a bit and plant some seedlings in here. All right, as far as storing these go, the ones that I'm going to use over the next week, I'm going to clean up. I'm going to peel off the outer layer, wash them, and put them in an open bag, paper bag even, in my crisper in the fridge. That's how I like to do it. But you can keep them out at room temp if you want. In fact, that's what I'm going to do with the bulk of these. I have a nice cool room. Not a basement, because we don't have those here in Northern California, but it's a nice cool room, cement walls and cement floor. So I'm going to store them long term there. And when I say long term, I just mean over the next 1 to 2 months at the most. We'll see. I know they'll last a month. I'm hoping they'll last even 2 months. That would be great. Meanwhile, I don't really need green onions because, of course, I have walking onions, and boy, are they walking. Okay, just another sneak peek here since it's not the official tour yet, but look at the walking onions. This is what they do, see? Let me find one that hasn't burst open. There's one. You can see it inside though. Here's one that has just started to burst open. And here's one that's completely burst and 2 came out of it. And these want to have little babies themselves. Walking onions are so fascinating. And they're so delicious. And they just keep growing and giving you more and more onions that you can take, pop off the top, and plant wherever you want and grow onions everywhere. So yes, I think I'll revise my estimate and say a month. We use so much onion in our cooking, so I don't think that these will make it past 4 to 6 weeks as far as we will use them up. But I think I'm going to try to save a few just to see how long I can keep them, at the exact wrong time of year to try to store anything because we're heading into summer. I know it's only March, So that sounds crazy, especially to some of you who are in cold climates. But we have had one of the warmest springs, if not the warmest that I can ever remember. It's been in the mid 80s Fahrenheit for a couple of weeks now. And I'll tell you what, when you're outside mowing and working in the garden as I've been doing, it feels hotter than that. So yeah, it feels like it's already May, not March. But I'm not complaining. I love working outside in the garden, and I look forward to sharing a tour with you in just a few days. Meanwhile, I'm going to take these onions in and get them stored and start cooking. And I encourage you to try all kinds of onions, and don't worry if they don't bulb up. It's great if they do, but it's fine if they don't. And remember, you can create the life you want, so why not start right now? See you next time, folks, when I will be taking you on a tour of the veggie garden and or a tour of my wild lavender garden or my fruit tree guilds. That's all coming up very soon. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do so and you won't miss it when I upload those videos. Now go enjoy this last week of March before we head into April, which definitely is time for gardening. Right, BB-8? Right, BB-8? Yeah. This is my garden kitty, huh? Are you my garden kitty? Are you my garden kitty? Yes, you're my garden kitty. Yes, you are. She follows me around everywhere and is so helpful. Another sneak peek. The lime tree is blossoming like crazy. That makes me very, very happy.